Hello viewers, welcome to this program. The title of the program is Reusable Learning Objects. I am Shutapa Bose. I teach at the School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University. Overview of the content. What shall we discuss during this program? We would be discussing the concept of RLOs. What are RLOs? Briefly, we shall provide an idea of RLOs. And then the characteristics of RLOs. What are the benefits of RLOs for teaching and learning? And the standards for development of e-content for RLOs. Our discussion will focus on these four key aspects of RLOs in order to provide you with a basic understanding of reusable learning object. First of all, coming to the first question, what is RLO? Let us analyze this term. You know what it means when we say reusable, something that can be used again. This is quite simple. Let us therefore focus on learning object. You know what is learning? An object. It is an element that helps to learn. The learning object could comprise items with content which facilitates learning. The content could be in the form of text, images or audio files. Videos could be there, or maybe a combination of all of these or some of these. There would also be a scope for practice and the scope for assessing learning. The items are combined, not haphazardly. When I say that there is an item which helps learners to practice what they have learned, and there is also an element which helps to assess whether learning has been effective, and there is also an item that teaches. The assembly of these items is guided by the learning objectives, the instructional objectives. Therefore, RLOs are developed with clearly articulated and specific objective, in keeping with which we assemble the items comprising a learning object. We could put together many learning objects, just like Lego blocks. You might have seen children playing with Lego blocks, plastic blocks, colorful plastic blocks which they put together, fix one into the other, performing houses, chairs, table, bridges, automobiles, things like that. We have pre-built components, the plastic blocks. What kids do? They just fix one into another in order to come out with larger units, like a house. Similarly, bricks are used for building a house. Apart from bricks, for example, for a building we need doors, we need windows, we need a modular kitchen, we need walls. These are all the components that we use for building a house. And nowadays, many components are available ready-made. We just procure them and put them together, assemble them. This is how an RLO also includes items that have been assembled for achieving a particular instructional objective. But we need to remember that a learning objective has only one instructional objective. It is important that the number of instructional objectives remains few. Ideally one. For example, I may develop a learning objective for helping my learners to calculate or to determine the standard deviation. I might develop a learning objective so that my learners are in a position to determine the significance of difference using t-test, or they are in a position to explain the concept of instructional designing. When I have these instructional objectives stated in a clear and specific way, I could develop a learning objective. A learning objective therefore has an instructional objective. And as per some authors, it is a digital resource. Learning objective is a digital resource, but some authors say that It could be digital or otherwise. Non-digital content could also be included. But then what is common between the different views on learning objectives? The thing that is common is that learning objective can be used and reused, or it can be referenced while teaching a technology mediated course. The most important thing is that it should be reusable, and this is the reason why it is known as a reusable learning objective, whether it is having only digital content or a combination of digital and non-digital or just non-digital content. What are the characteristics of learning objects? This is the second question. Well, we could assemble several learning objects. I'll cite an example here. I have a learning objective for teaching the concept of instructional design. Based on the instructional objective of facilitating learning in a way that learners are in a position to describe the concept of instructional designing. I have this learning object. Now I have a second learning object. It is about the genesis of instructional designing. The third learning object is about the benefits of using instructional design. The fourth could be about the models of instructional designing. In order to offer a course on instructional designing, instead of developing content for all these areas that I have just mentioned, what I could do is that I could procure learning objects for the first, second, third and fourth areas that I have just mentioned. If I have a learning object for teaching the concept of instructional designing, a second one for teaching the genesis of instructional designing, a third one that tells the benefits of instructional designing, and the fourth one helps learners to understand the models of instructional designing. Well, I have a course. I don't need to develop the content once again. This is the benefit of RLOs. Someone has already developed it. Why should I develop it again? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. If it is already there, if it meets our purpose, we can reuse it. But in order to make it reusable, a learning objective must have metadata. What is metadata? Well, it has information in the form of digitized text, visuals, audio, video, multimedia. But then what is it about? How would users across the world know that, well, there is already a learning object which is available? I need to include metadata. Metadata in the form of a title. If the title of a learning object is Genesis of Instructional Design, developed by a teacher from this institution, teachers and learners would know that, well, there is a learning object for this particular area and I don't need to develop a course where again learners would also know that, well, there is already some content in this area and I can use it for learning. Metadata is just like the cover page of the information on the cover page of a book. The title of the book, the author, the publisher, the year of publication maybe. All this information you could get from the cover of a book, or if it is a CD or a DVD. You know the title of the film, the producers, and maybe the main actors. Similarly, for learning objects too, metadata is important so that it can be located, identified easily. And as I said, a reusable learning object goes without saying has to be reusable. The use should extend beyond access. It is not enough if the content is accessible to learners. The learners and especially the teachers should also be able to use it. For example, if there is a learning object on genesis of instructional design, learners may read it, teachers may read it and know about the genesis, but then the teacher should be in a position to use that particular learning objective as a part of the courseware that they intend to offer to their learners. This makes it reusable. Merely reading the content, using the content, no. Going beyond it, extending the use to its reuse so that it can be used again by a different set of learners, maybe some other institution for some other course. And we should also be in a position not only to reuse the learning object but also repurpose it. For example, if the learning object has been prepared with examples and metaphors and idioms pertaining to a particular culture, I should be in a position to edit these so that my learners who may be from a different culture can use it with ease. The cultural gap does not come in the way of the reuse. Reuse is therefore something that allows repurposing. And then we may like to add some more examples to an explanation. We may like to delete some content. We may like to add some videos or delete some. Repurposing is essential so that it is customized. A learning object which is already available, as a teacher, I should be in a position to customize it for meeting the needs of my learners. This is also the meaning of reusable. Learning objects therefore provide learning experience. As I said that as per some authors, digital content as well as non-digital content could be comprising a learning object. Now, I would like to ask you, if I have a map or a chart which I use in a classroom, would it comprise a learning object? No. The answer is no. Why? That is because if you remember what I have just said, that a learning object should comprise three elements. First, content that provides learning experience in the form of, say, text, and then there should be scope for practice and scope for assessment, and everything should begin with an instructional objective. A map is not created, a chart is not created for meeting any one particular instructional objective, but to facilitate the attainment of an instructional objective, we may use a map, a chart in order to supplement some other content. Learning experience is provided in the form of content. There could be documents, and yes, a learning object is although not very big in size, but it could definitely include links to other resources. The resources could be various websites, it could be links to MOOCs, it could be links to videos and other web-based resources. But granularity is important. A learning object in itself should not be voluminous. It has to be small, but at the same time independent. What does it mean when I say it should be independent? It should have content which is enough, which is adequate for learning a particular idea, a particular concept. For example, if I have a learning object pertaining to genesis of instructional design, then there should be enough content which provides my learners with an idea of the genesis of instructional design. They should not be running around looking for content so that they can fully understand the genesis of instructional design. This is the reason why, or if it is for say how to calculate or how to determine standard deviation. If I develop a learning object, then it should have enough content and enough scope for practice so that learners don't have to look around for other objects which will help them to learn how to calculate standard deviation. The learning object in itself should be enough, it should be independent. And there should also be scope for assessment, as I have said. The unit that I develop in the form of a learning object hence should be self-contained, and this is the meaning of independent. And it should lend itself to use and repeated reuse on multiple occasions. It could include static content, it could also include interactive content. What is static content? You may be reading about the flight timings after visiting the website of a flight operator. You can't change the timings. Or if you are reading the schedule of say train schedule or the phone numbers in a telephone directory which is available online, we are not in a position to bring about changes in the data or in the information which is already there. Nor are we in a position to ask for greater information. But if the information is interactive, for example a quiz, an online quiz, I as a user would be in a position to feed in my response for the questions that are being asked, and in turn what would I get? I would get a feedback. While reading content on Wikipedia, I may use hyperlink. I just go to the hyperlink, click it, and the Wikipedia guides me to some other information which is related to what I was reading. This is called interactivity. If I am looking for a dress which I want to buy, I would enlarge it. I want a side view. I can get the side view. I want the front view. I can get a front view. So this is called interactive content, interactive content is content that responds to the user's demand. And a quiz is a good example because the dialogue continues. There is a question, I provide my response and I get a feedback. If I have failed the test, I would be asked to read the content once again. I go to that content, come back, take the quiz again, and this time maybe I pass. So you see that there is a dialogue, there is an interaction, ongoing interaction. This is interactive content. A learning object could include either of these two or a combination of these two. It could have some content which is static and some content which is interactive. Now coming to the other characteristics of RLOs. As I have said that RLOs are developed for reuse and repurposing, and there should therefore be an open license, for example the Creative Commons. Users would be free to use but attribution may be required. Hence licensing is an important part, and we should remember while developing RLOs that the primary goal of developing an RLO is for imparting instructions. The content of an RLO may be in multimedia form but with one instructional objective. Therefore, when we put together various content in various media, we should do so keeping in mind the instructional objective. I'll cite an example here. If I am developing a learning object for teaching with the instructional objective of teaching models of instructional designing, I could include some text to explain a few models. There could be visuals in the form of images. There could be images of what? Images of models of instructional designing, maybe in the form of a flow chart. There could be a video clip with an expert explaining one of the models of instructional designing, and there could be an audio clip for the same purpose. Therefore, although we have used content in various media, but the instructional objective remains unchanged. And the second thing is that the content is included with the aim of attaining the instructional objective. And activities are also an integral part. Activities may be in the form of quizzes, or there could be other activities which learners would carry out, and on the basis of these exercises we could assess the concept that has been taught. And this is the reason why we say that a reusable learning object is complete, it is independent, it is a complete unit, it is a standalone unit which helps to teach a particular concept. What are the two main characteristics? Number one, granularity. Just like grains of rice or grains of wheat, a grain is small, but when you put together several grains, you get a plate full of rice. Each grain is similar to a learning object. We could put together many learning objects in order to develop a course. The second thing is that apart from granularity, but you see that a grain in itself is complete. Ideally, a grain should not be a broken one. It has to be complete. Only then it would be made out as a grain of rice. Similarly, a learning object is also complete in itself, though small in size. The second thing is that it should have simplicity. How to ensure simplicity? We can ensure it by avoiding too many instructional objectives. This is the best way to ensure simplicity. Standalone content, as I have said, is important. And where do we store learning objects? We store RLOs in repositories. These are stored there, these are managed there. Why in repositories? Because we cannot search for learning objects here and there. In order to systematize the search, in order to know where to look for, we can visit the repositories. There are well-known repositories and you could locate the learning object that you need if it is available in well-known repositories. It is just like a library. If you want to read a book, what do? Either you go to a shop or you go to a library. Similarly, if I want to use a learning object, a reusable learning object, where would I go? I would visit repositories. And as I said, that metadata tags are there, and with the help of such metadata tags attached to the RLOs, I can identify, I can locate the learning object that I need to use. And we should also have a format which is not fixed in nature. If it is fixed in nature, what would happen? It would not be reusable. So a format which is amenable to change, which is amenable to repurposing. As I said, that a learning object which has been developed for one target group could be useful for another target group belonging to a different culture which is separated from the first target group geographically, culturally, linguistically. But if it lends itself to repurposing, then with small amount of changes, the learning object could be useful across cultures, across institutions. Therefore, we need to see that it is free from a fixed format, and the cultural context should also be avoided to the extent possible. The learning objects that we develop should be culturally neutral. How to do that? We should avoid idioms. We should avoid reference to particular traditions, practices that are contextualized by the culture of a particular area. And the RLO should also have interoperability. Our learners would be using a variety of devices. Some would be using their laptops, some would be using their phones, and they would be using a variety of operational systems. I need to ensure that all my learners, irrespective of the device they use, they should be, and the other aspects, they should be in a position to use the RLO, which is made a part of an online course. Now coming to the benefits of RLOs, why do we use RLOs? You see that knowledge creation is a collaborative activity. If I have developed a learning object and if someone else while repurposing it, renews it, enriches it, knowledge would be added, knowledge would be created and shared, and this is important in a knowledge society. Moreover, repeated investment of time, resources can be avoided if I use content in the form of RLO which is already available. And then if I am using RLO of quality, naturally, and adding it to my courseware, naturally, I would be offering quality instructions. And there are people who do not have access to quality institutions, quality teaching, good teachers. Not everyone is privileged. But with the use of RLO, quality content can be offered to even those who do not have such facilities. Therefore, what we do is that good teachers get multiplied when the same RLO is used on different occasions. And we can add RLOs to the courses, to online courses offered through LMS, learning management systems. We can also include more perspectives. Well, I'll cite an example. If I am discussing the contemporary issues of adolescence of India, if I am using RLOs developed for a similar topic but from other societies, then the course that I am offering would gain multiple perspectives. The learning objective which has been developed elsewhere would bring along with it the perspective of the place, of the society where it has been developed. My learners would therefore be introduced to numerous perspectives. And it also helps for just-in-time learning. I don't have the time for learning an entire course on human physiology. I want to know only about the digestive system. Then why enroll in a course offered for teaching human physiology? Why not get hold of a learning object for digestive system and learn? This is called just-in-time learning. But yes, there are problems as well. First of all, the content generated has to be stored in approved, accessible repositories. And then creating, uploading, maintaining metadata is time consuming. There could be some difficulties, but with practice we can do it. And it has to be interoperable with various devices and technologies so that it can be used multiple times. And object creation, learning object creation is usually achieved. How? By following internationally accepted standards. And how should I select RLO? I should see that the learning object that I introduce and add to my course should further the instructional objective of the course which I am already teaching. The instructional objective of the learning object that I use and that of my course should match, should be aligned, and then the content should be authentic, it should have quality. The level of difficulty should be the same as that of my course. Therefore, getting hold of an RLO and using it without considering these aspects would not be a wise decision. We should be very careful while we introduce learning objects in our course, and we should also be careful about the cultural context. And if the learning object can take the learning experience to a higher level, for example, if it includes simulations, educational games, and if it enriches the perspectives, brings in multiple perspectives, in that case, the learning object would be adding value to my course. It is not just for the sake of adding a learning object, but only if it furthers the value of my course and if it really helps me to prevent the duplication of resources should I include an RLO, but after taking due precautions. And they should also be, it is better to include RLOs that offer instructions using multimedia content. This is about RLO. First of all, it has to be reusable. Second, it has to be a learning object which is granular, that is small in size, simple, but at the same time independent learning unit. Thank you.